My parents said, "This year's just too tight. Let's do something after the holidays." I said, "Of course." Then I saw my sister's post, her co-workers' entire family, and their golden doodle gathered around our childhood tree. I took a photo of the stack of personalized gifts my kids wrapped, sent it with one line, "Donating tomorrow." 10 minutes later, my mom called 24 times. I ignored everyone and not. What shocked me most wasn't the selfishness, it was how little they thought of us, how easy it was for my parents to pretend we didn't exist. Not just me, but the kids, their own grandchildren. It wasn't just neglect, it was deliberate. That's what hurt most. They didn't even hesitate. Early December, my mom called, casual as ever. "This year's just too tight. Let's do something after the holidays." I didn't argue. I said, "Of course." I was exhausted, and honestly, I didn't have the fight in me. I'd been running on fumes ever since Martin walked out 2 months ago. One minute we were a family of 4, and the next I was fielding school runs, night terrors, and court dates on my own. I didn't expect a perfect Christmas, but I thought we'd at least have each other. The kids were bummed, but we made it work. They poured themselves into the gifts, little things, a calendar of their drawings, hand-painted picture frames, and a memory jar full of folded notes that said things like, "You make the best banana bread, and thank you for always loving us." They even decorated a red envelope with stickers and gold stars. That one held a $10,000 check. I had tucked it aside after the divorce, part of the emergency fund. I figured if my parents were struggling, this would help. The kids believed it was just a special surprise. I didn't tell them the real reason. We had our own Christmas. Cinnamon rolls, old movies, snowball fights in the backyard. It was quiet, not terrible. I tried to focus on what we had. Then I made the mistake of checking Instagram. My sister's story was the second one on my feed. She was filming a living room full of people I didn't recognize. Not just people, her co-workers' entire family gathered around our tree, our childhood ornaments, our fireplace. My parents front and center, laughing like they just won the lottery. Her co-worker's dog, a golden doodle, was sitting on my mom's lap. I watched the video 3 times. I wanted to believe I misunderstood, but I hadn't. I didn't say anything. Just walked over to our little stack of presents under the tree, took a photo, sent it to my parents with one line, "Donating tomorrow." 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with 24 missed calls, all from my mom. No texts, just call after call after call. I didn't answer. I didn't feel like hearing whatever story they were going to spin. It was almost 9:30 when the knock came. I opened the door. There they were, my mom and dad, standing in the cold, holding a tin of cookies like nothing had happened, like we hadn't been completely erased from their holiday. They stood on my porch like it was nothing, like we were just a regular family, popping by with cookies on a snowy Christmas night. My mom held out the tin, still smiling like she wasn't the same person who cut us out of the holiday 2 weeks ago. My dad was quieter, hovering behind her, not meeting my eyes. I didn't say anything. I didn't step aside to let them in. I took the tin without even glancing at it. The cold air was biting through the doorway, and the kids were inside laughing at something on the TV. I wasn't going to let that warmth get sucked out into the snow just because these two had suddenly remembered we existed. My mom cleared her throat and said they were just driving around, wanted to see how we were doing. I said we were fine, nothing more. Then she asked about the text, the one with the photo of the gifts, and that one line, "Donating tomorrow." She said it like she didn't already know what it meant. I told her exactly what it meant. The presents the kids made, the photo calendar, the hand-painted ornaments, the jar of memories. They were going to a local shelter. Families who actually wanted them would get them. Families who weren't too busy hosting strangers around someone else's fireplace. She tried to play it off, said maybe we could get together next week instead. Something casual, something just us. But she wasn't looking at me when she said it. She was watching the edge of the envelope peeking out from under the photo in the picture I had sent. It had gold stars. It looked like something kids would make for their grandparents because it was. Then she asked the real question, the one she came for. Was there something in that red envelope? She already knew. She just wanted to hear me say it. I looked at her and didn't answer. I didn't need to. She shifted uncomfortably, like standing still was suddenly unbearable. My dad, who hadn't said a word until then, spoke up. He said they hadn't realized how much the kids had worked on everything, how much thought we'd put into the holiday, that maybe they'd made a mistake and we should get back on the same page. It sounded rehearsed. They didn't come to fix anything. They came because they saw a dollar amount and suddenly remembered we mattered. I told them the kids were asleep. They weren't. I could still hear them arguing about marshmallows in the kitchen, but it was enough. My parents hesitated a second longer, then turned and left. No hugs, no apology, just the crunch of boots and fresh snow. I closed the door and looked down at the tin. It rattled when I moved it. Inside were store-bought sugar cookies shoved into a recycled Christmas container from 2 years ago. A broken one sat right on top. That night, I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I took the red envelope, the wrapped gifts, the jar of memories, everything. I packed it all up and dropped it off with my friend Marcy, who works with families going through crisis support. She knew just who to give it to: a dad who lost his job 2 weeks before Christmas, a mom working double shifts, and 3 kids under 9. I didn't leave a name, just instructions to pass it on quietly. By the time I got back home, my phone had 17 missed calls. By sunset, it was 36. And then the text started. The text didn't stop. First, it was the usual: let's talk. We miss the kids. New Year's is a fresh start. I ignored everyone, not out of spite, but because I'd already seen the truth. My parents had erased us from their holiday without a second thought. It wasn't just neglect, it was intentional. They made a choice, and now that they'd realized what they walked away from, they were scrambling. The shift came 4 days after Christmas. My mom messaged again. "We'd love for you and the kids to come over for New Year's. Just us. Let's make it nice. No drama." Then she added, "I'll make Everlynn's favorite pie." That one made me pause. Everlynn saw it too. She asked if we were going, said, maybe Grandma and Grandpa were just confused or busy, that maybe now they understood how much we missed them. Eli said he wanted to play with their old train set again. He even mentioned the fire pit out back and how Grandpa used to let them roast marshmallows even when it was freezing. I should have shut it down, but I didn't. I told myself it was for the kids, that maybe they were trying in their own flawed way to fix what they broke. We showed up just after 5 on New Year's Eve. Snow was falling again, soft and steady. My parents' house looked warm, almost perfect. Lights glowing in the windows, music playing inside. They greeted us at the door like nothing had ever happened. My mom hugged the kids a little too long. My dad called me kiddo, like we were back in some alternate timeline where he hadn't stood on my porch days ago, hoping to secure a mystery check. There were candles lit, a big roast on the table. Even my sister was there with her boyfriend Jake, who spent most of the evening asking the kids overly cheerful questions like he was reading from a script. Everyone was overly polite, smiling too hard, laughing too loud. It was like watching a dress rehearsal of a family that didn't actually know each other. Then, after dinner, when the kids went to the den to play a board game, my mom disappeared into the kitchen and came back with something in her hand. The red envelope, same one the kids had decorated. I knew every sticker on it, every marker smudge. I stared at it, then looked at her. She placed it carefully on the table between us. My dad sat down across from me, suddenly very interested in his hands. My sister leaned against the counter, arms crossed, not saying anything but watching everything. My mom spoke softly. She said she just wanted to clarify something, that if the envelope was still in limbo, maybe it made sense to use it in a way that benefited everyone. She said they could put it toward home repairs or maybe something for the grandkids down the line. She said it like she was doing me a favor by even suggesting it. I asked her how she got it. She said she had a feeling and called around. One of the women at the donation network apparently owed her a favor. She never said exactly how she retrieved it, but the implication was clear. She dug until she found it, and once she knew what was inside, she made sure it didn't leave her reach again. I was stunned, but not surprised. My parents have always believed in a strange version of ownership. If they could justify it, it belonged to them. I told her the envelope wasn't theirs. She said, "I'd already chosen to give it away, and we're your family too." Then my sister chimed in for the first time all night. She said, "If I'd already been willing to give that money to strangers, I could at least do the right thing and keep it in the family." I looked around the room. All that politeness, all that warmth, it had never been real. This was the reason they invited us. They were staging a reunion so they could corner me. I stood up and called for the kids. Everlynn asked if we could stay just a little longer. Eli didn't want to leave until they finished their game. I told them no. My mom looked heartbroken, but it wasn't real. It was disappointment with the outcome, not with the situation. She said I was being dramatic, that I was tearing apart a family over a gift we didn't even ask for. I didn't respond. I gathered the kids, told them to get their boots on, and thanked no one. As I opened the front door, my sister said, So you're just going to keep it? I turned back for half a second. She didn't flinch. She didn't see anything wrong with what she'd said. We left. Snow was thicker now, and the road home was quiet. The kids were quiet, too. The text started up again the next morning, longer, more urgent, and I could feel what was coming next. The morning after New Year's, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Not just texts this time. Emails, too. I guess my mother figured if she couldn't reach me directly, she'd try other routes. One of them was a group email to me, my sister, and my dad. Subject line, "Let's resolve this with grace." Like we were all part of some mediation and not a one-sided ambush. I didn't respond. By noon, my sister sent a long text. Said the kids were always welcome at her place, that if I didn't want to be part of the family anymore, that was my choice. But I shouldn't rob the children of love they clearly still wanted. It was calculated. The wording was exact. Then came the part I didn't expect. She said, if the kids really wanted to visit Grandma and Grandpa, I should trust them enough to decide for themselves. But that trust means you're not dangling money to control everything. I read it twice. That's when I realized they were trying to flip it, make it look like I was the one using money to manipulate them. I sat with that for a while, let it simmer. Then a few days later, Everlyn came into the kitchen holding her iPad. She'd been texting someone. I asked who, and she hesitated, said it was Aunt Rachel. I told her to hand it over. What I read made my stomach turn. My sister had been messaging Everlyn directly, telling her grandma cried after we left, that she felt like she didn't matter anymore, that grown-ups make mistakes too, but that sometimes we need kids to remind them how to forgive. She even suggested Everlyn call Grandma without telling Mommy, so it could be a special little secret between girls. I took the iPad and walked straight into the living room. I didn't yell. I sat Everlyn and Eli down and told them the truth, that their grandmother and aunt were trying to use them to get something from me, that it had nothing to do with love, and that it was never okay for adults to ask kids to keep secrets from their parents. Everlyn cried. Eli looked furious in that way only a 7-year-old can, silent, tight-jawed, confused. It broke something in both of them. I told them we were taking a break from all of it. I blocked my sister's number. I sent one message to my parents. Do not contact my children again without going through me first. This is not a negotiation. An hour later, someone knocked on my door. It wasn't my parents. It was Jake, my sister's boyfriend. He looked uncomfortable, said he came alone. He held up his phone and said he'd seen some of the messages Rachel had sent and it didn't sit right with him. Said he knew he had no place getting involved, but he just wanted to say he didn't agree with how things went down. Then he pulled out something from his coat pocket, a flash drive. Said, "You might want to see what was on it." I took it, said nothing, and closed the door. I plugged it in later that night. There were screenshots, voice memos, recordings, Rachel and my mom talking, plotting really, about how to guilt Brittany into coughing it up. And if not, we'll make sure the kids know who's really keeping them away. I saved everything, every file, every word, and for the first time since Christmas, I didn't feel cornered. I felt ready. I didn't sleep that night. Not from worry, those days were behind me, but because I couldn't stop thinking about how far they'd gone, about how calm they were while doing it, how easy it was for them to script manipulation into something they could call family love. I made copies of everything on that flash drive, saved it to the cloud, printed transcripts, even mailed one to a lawyer I knew through a former client. Not because I wanted to sue anyone, but because I wanted a record just in case. You don't leave doors like that wide open. 2 days later, they showed up again. This time, they didn't come to talk. They came to collect. My parents pulled up in the driveway around noon. I saw them from the kitchen window. They sat in the car for a while before getting out. No cookies, no gift bags, no fake warm greetings, just straight to the point. I opened the door before they could knock. My dad was the first to speak. Said he didn't understand why I was blowing things out of proportion, that a simple misunderstanding had turned into a war. My mom said they'd come to get what was intended for them. She said I had offered the money and that it wasn't right to punish them just because of a temporary lapse in judgment. They used words like rightful, fair, and reconciliation. I let them talk, then I told them I had something they needed to see. I went back inside, grabbed my tablet, and pulled up one of the voice memos. Hit play. It was my mother's voice, clear as day. If we can't guilt her, we make the kids want to come. If they miss us enough, she'll cave. She always does. My dad looked stunned. My mom went pale. I told them I had more. Dozens of messages, plans, their own voices laying it all out like a strategy meeting. My mom reached out to touch my arm. I stepped back. I said one thing, leave and do not try this again. They didn't argue. My dad turned first. My mom hesitated but followed. By evening, my sister tried again. A new number, a new message. You're doing this to hurt them, not us. I replied once, don't contact us again, we're done. And we were. The next day, I booked 3 flights. One way, me, Everlyn, and Eli. We were done being anyone's leverage. We left 3 mornings later. Snow still on the ground. Neighborhood still draped in twinkle lights as if pretending it was still Christmas. But for us, it was already over. We didn't tell anyone where we were going. Just packed up, boarded the plane, and flew toward Sun. We left in the middle of the night. 3 suitcases, 2 sleepy kids, and 1 worn-out mother who had nothing left to explain. I didn't tell a single soul where we were going. I didn't leave a note, just turned off the porch light and closed the door behind me. The flight was long, but the kids didn't complain. Everlyn watched clouds the whole way. Eli fell asleep with his head on my arm and didn't wake until we landed. The air hit us the second we stepped off the plane. Thick, warm, foreign in the best possible way. Everlyn blinked up at the palm trees and whispered, "It smells like mangoes." She wasn't wrong. The hotel wasn't anything fancy, but the walls were clean, and the view was all sky and water. There was a pool, a lazy cat that napped on the sun chairs, and a woman at the front desk who called Everlyn Princess and gave Eli 2 free mango popsicles without asking. The first morning, I woke up to the sound of laughter. Real laughter, not that tight, forced kind I'd gotten used to at home. Everlyn was trying to teach Eli to hula with a towel tied around his waist. It didn't matter that neither of them had a clue what they were doing. They were free. I let them swim before breakfast, let them eat dessert first. I didn't check my phone, not once. For a whole week, we just existed. No guilt, no performance, no obligation. And then on the 8th day, I got a call. Uncle Mark. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. He didn't ask where we were, didn't ask about the money, or my parents, or Rachel, just said he wanted to check in. Said he'd been keeping quiet, but that he'd seen enough to know something wasn't right. He told me he admired what I did, drawing a line, protecting my kids, walking away. Then he said something that stuck with me. Sometimes love doesn't mean staying close. It means staying whole. You chose right. That was it. He didn't ask for anything, didn't offer advice, just wanted me to know someone had noticed. After that call, I went down to the beach with the kids. We wrote our names in the sand, let the waves wash them away, and then wrote them again. At night, Everlyn curled up next to me and said, "I like it here. It feels like we don't have to pretend." And I knew exactly what she meant. We stayed longer than planned. I let the days stretch out like a yawn. No schedule, no plan. I paid for everything from the same account that once held the envelope. I didn't feel guilty. That money was never meant to buy forgiveness. It was meant to bring peace, and it did. I haven't heard from my parents since. Not a single word. Not from Rachel either. I don't know if they've convinced themselves I'm the villain. I don't care. My kids are safe. They're laughing again. I'm sleeping through the night. And for the first time in months, I don't feel like I owe anyone an explanation. If something changes, if they reach out again or try something new, I'll write an update. But I don't know if I will. For now, thank you to everyone who read this, to everyone who sat with me in this. You didn't have to, but you did. And that's something I won't forget.